steam so thick the door disappears. A straight razor lies flat along your knuckles. Not yours, not moving. Ded Grisha's voice comes from somewhere in the white. Did you talk? Water hisses off hot stone behind you. Cedar smoke and wet salt thick enough to chew. The only other sound in the room. Answer wrong, and the razor decides for you, not him. Don't blink first. None of this exists 2 years ago. Not the steam, not the razor, not the name the block will start using instead of yours. An 11th floor elevator broken since before you were born. Your mother, Valia, boiling water on a hot plate because the stove died in March. You want it fixed. You don't know yet that fixing anything here has a price nobody prints on a receipt. 11 flights of stairs, laundry frozen stiff on the line above you, Katia waiting by the broken swing because it's the only bench left with both chairs. She wants out of this courtyard. So do you. An older boy named Talik offers 500 rubles to carry a bag 3 blocks and not look inside it. Your hands say yes before your mouth does. The bag is heavier than 500 rubles should feel. 2 men stop you at the alley's mouth, patting you down hard enough to bruise, deciding whether you're worth the trouble of hurting. An old man watches from a doorway the whole time and says nothing until he does. 1 sentence, and both men step back like he's cold water. You don't know his name yet. Ded Grisha runs a coil and needle rig older than you are. Ink smell thick enough to taste, iodine under it. 1 dot, he says, for the first job carry without flinching. Earned, not given. The buzz climbs up through your jaw while he works in silence. Unhurried, like the needle has all the time the razor didn't. Your hand doesn't move once. Ink doesn't come off. Neither does what it means. 2 years chalk up fast once Talik stops being the one giving orders. A grated counter window, a shopkeeper's hand shaking around a folded stack of bills, your own voice flat and bored on purpose because bored is scarier than angry ever sounds. $220 a week, yours to skim a little off the top. The rest gone before you finish counting it, into pockets you'll never see. A patrol car takes you in for nothing provable. A detective sliding Ded Grisha's photo across a scarred metal table like it's a kindness, a favor between 2 reasonable men. Give 'em up. Easy, go home tonight. Your hands stay flat on the table. Steady. That's the part that scares you. Not the fear, the absence of it, like some other version of you already decided the answer weeks ago. A man 3 weeks behind on the roof payment gets found in this same alley, and tonight it's your hands doing the finding. Bone against brick, copper, and wet concrete in the air, a smell that doesn't wash out with soap no matter how long you stand under the shower after. He pays double by morning. Nobody in the brigade calls it a promotion. Everybody treats you like you got one anyway. Ded Grisha starts the star on your left knee this time. The classic mark, the one that means something specific and non-negotiable. You kneel to no one wearing the uniform. Not ever. Not for a lighter sentence. Not for a shorter stay. Not for anything. Stars on the chest come later. He says, for men who've earned the right to be seen from further away. Steam again, the same wood-planked room. But this time you're the one Ded Grisha vouches for at the low table. A brigade of your own. 6 men, 3 blocks, a route that used to be Talik's before Talik stopped being useful to anyone. The stove hisses the same way it did the night of the razor. Cedar and salt again. Unmentioned. Same as it was then. A banded stack under a bare bulb. $14,000 this month across the brigade. And 11% of every bill peels off before it's yours to call anything. The obshchak, Ded Grisha calls it. The common fund, older than the Soviet Union's fall, feeding lawyers and widows and men still doing time upstate. It was never built to make you rich. A police captain takes an envelope through a service door that isn't on any building plan, counts it without looking up, mentions, almost friendly, that 9 in 10 businesses in this city still pay someone's roof, government report or not. Zoloto's crew moved into the next district without asking anyone first. Gold rings, gold watch, a laugh too loud for a man who's never done a day of real time. An epaulette starts across your right shoulder, rank stitched into skin the way soldiers stitch it into cloth. Except this uniform answers to nobody's government and never will. Grisha's hands have slowed this year, a tremor he hides by keeping them working. 3 more sessions, he says. Then people stop asking who you belong to and start asking who belongs to you. A nightclub with your name nowhere on the deed and your money in every wall of it. Liquor licenses, payroll. An accountant paid well to ask nothing worth answering. Avtoritet, The others call you now a rank you didn't climb so much as by your way sideways into no post, no needle, no vote from the circle. Real vory built their names on the wood post and the wire. You built yours on spreadsheets. A stack of laundering paperwork, invoices for liquor that never arrived, a signature attached to a business that technically doesn't exist either. 380,000 a year moves through the club's books now, most of it going right back out the other side, cleaner than it came in. Clean money still smells like the alley it started in, if you're close enough to remember. Katia finds the club by accident, recognizes your voice through an office door before she sees your face behind the desk full of paperwork she was never meant to read. She doesn't yell. That's worse. She asks one question. Do you love any of this? And you don't answer fast enough for the answer to be no. The city looks smaller from up here than it did from the courtyard. It isn't. You are. A round table of men older and colder than you, deciding who watches the whole district now that the last Smotryashchiy retired to a prison hospital bed. Ded Grisha puts your name forward before you can stop him. Every route in 6 blocks answers to you by morning, and every problem in 6 blocks is now yours to solve, starting with whichever one Zoloto starts first. A reel spins behind a wall of surveillance photos nobody in this room should know about, and one photo has Ded Grisha's face circled in red marker that isn't yours and never was. Somebody's been talking to the state. The one in the code doesn't forgive, doesn't negotiate, doesn't wait on. The stove is quiet if the room presses in on your ears. Zoloto isn't in this photo. Notice that. Ded Grisha never touched a wire in 40 years of never touching one, and it doesn't matter. The circle decides before dawn, and the circle doesn't ask you to vote so much as watch. One old man's whole life folded into a single sentence, delivered in the same alley you bled in as a Patsan. Somewhere behind you, a stove is hissing, or maybe that's just your own breath now. The low table by the stove stays empty for a week. Nobody brave enough to sit where Ded Grisha always sat. Not even to eat there. Zoloto finds you there anyway. Uninvited, cologne cutting through the cold, almost bored, like he's discussing dust instead of man who trained you. The star on your knee has never itched more. Somebody had a clean house. A ring of vory older than the country's current borders. Candlelight instead of the stove's bare bulb. A folded prison blanket and a glass of tea in a metal holder on the floor in front of you. The code survived a war of its own once. Thieves killing thieves over who'd broken faith with the state. Nobody says so out loud tonight. Koronatsiya. No marriage, no state job, no property with your name on a deed, ever again. You kneel. You say yes before the question finishes. Katia's name isn't on any deed either. Not anymore. Not after tonight. You tell her the truth for once. What koronatsiya actually costs. The rule about family that isn't a metaphor and never was. She doesn't cry, doesn't raise her voice, doesn't ask you to choose. She leaves the ring you never technically gave her on the windowsill, small and gold, and completely unwanted now, the last object in the apartment that was ever really yours. Ded Grisha isn't the one holding the needle anymore, obviously, and the man who replaces him works faster, colder, less like a ritual and more like paperwork. A cathedral dome goes on your chest tonight. One dome, one sentence, except you haven't served one yet. Some men earn the mark first. You're wearing a debt on credit the fund extends to almost no one else. Value sets a table for 2 that used to be 3, doesn't ask where Katia went, has mostly stopped asking things this year. A new stove, finally, paid for in cash nobody questions out loud. She touches the star tattoo on your knee once, silent, the way you'd touch a scar on someone you still love. An unmarked car idles outside for exactly 4 minutes, then leaves. Neither of you mentions it. A Pakhan 2 levels up decides the network needs eyes on the other side of an ocean, the same way one real Vor got sent to Brighton Beach in 1992 because he'd gotten too loud at home. You don't ask if it's an honor or a sentence. Both answers cost the same ticket. Valia's new stove is the last warm thing you touch before the jet. Gulls over a boardwalk in a language you're still learning. Salt air instead of cedar smoke. A Ferris wheel turning gold against a skyline that isn't yours either and never will be. The network here runs the same shakedowns in a different accent. Nail salons instead of kiosks, insurance fraud instead of krysha, but the same 11% peeling off the top before it reaches home. Distance doesn't change the math. It changes the view while you do it. Coordinates come in from 3 cities at once now. A network bigger than any single obshchak was ever built to hold alone. Zoloto's name turns up circled in red on somebody else's wall 2 years later. The same fund that raised you disposing of its own, exactly the way it disposed of Ded Grisha. The star on your knee still means what it meant on the courtyard swing. Everyone else was always negotiable. The old Pakhan dies quietly of a heart nobody bothered to check on, and the round table doesn't debate long before your name gets said out loud. A samovar hisses on the side table exactly like the banya stove used to. A wall map behind the desk, pins in 6 cities. $60 million move through this office in a normal year. None of it, technically, legally, actually is yours. A courier counts bills into bands at 3 a.m. under the same kind of bear bulb that lit the very first stack you ever watched get counted, 12 years and a whole ocean removed from that first one. Ded Grisha used to say the fund outlives everyone who feeds it. You believed him the way you believe gravity, abstractly, until the day you're the one falling toward it. Men wait outside your office now the way you once waited outside Ded Grisha's, hoping for 5 minutes and a nod they may not get. Somewhere back at the start, in the steam, a razor stopped cold against your knuckle, waiting on one answer. You never talked. Not that night. Not once since. Not for any price anyone's offered. And that single unbroken silence is the only reason you're the one sitting here instead of him. A young Patsan gets brought in for his first mark, some errand boy who reminds you of a version of yourself from a courtyard 11 flights up and 1 ocean away. He asks, nervous if it hurts. You could tell him about the razor, the stove, the star, the dome you wore before you'd earned it. Instead, you say nothing, and the needle starts anyway. Everything after the first one hurts less. That's the problem. An envelope arrives with no return address. Postmarked from the old district, one photograph inside. A girl, maybe 10, Kadia's exact chin. A name written on the back you don't recognize. Sasha. You don't call the number scrawled beneath it. You don't burn the photo either. It goes in the drawer with everything else the code decided wasn't yours to keep, and the drawer, for now, stays shut.